on in. The water's fine. Get sucked in by the Triptide.
Hello and welcome back to Triptide.
Triptide.
No, so today Sean is running a little late, so we're actually going to have to sub in Steven. We're going to do an interview with Steven until Sean is able to arrive.
Hi, everybody.
No one asked you to talk yet. So
I just want to introduce
look,
myself.
No. All right, so we have a mix of questions from two different viewers. Things are getting spicy.
Wow.
We should have had three, but a certain viewer did not follow up. So we've got two different viewers, and we have some in-depth thoughts for Steven. So first off is your thoughts on classical music and its place and lack of prominence in today's society.
So, I would classify classical music as, like, Elvis.
I already hate this.
Why is Elvis not considered classical music?
No.
What would you consider classical music?
You know, Bach, like real classical music.
I've seen Bach in the
music.
future.
Look, Steven, I don't know if you're cut out for this job. We're not even paying you. I don't know why you're still on set, but I'm upset with you. We're gonna come back to this when
Okay.
Steven's dead. So the next question, what is a thought? Can you think something without linguistically being able to explain it? Or are those considered emotions?
Spell linguistic.
I don't think if I spell it, does that mean you'll know what linguistic means?
Yes,
Steven?
precisely.
Okay. So I'm going to go with linguistically, the
So
word in use.
Okay.
Linguistically. Linguistically.
So, yeah, I think about things all the time, but if you can't actually express the thought, then I don't think it immediately becomes an emotion. I just think it's like some neurons firing off in your brain, and maybe there's some chemical shit going on with that. Yeah, I think about stuff all the time. Like today, I was thinking about raspberries. And I was like, dang, I could really go for some raspberries today. Do you think about raspberries?
So I have a personal question. It's not from our viewers. Do
Okay.
you have a second grade education? Because I very much believe you do not. So the next question for Steven here is going to be, what are a few ways to help people stop doing things that they know are stupid? I feel like this really hits too close to home with this episode. But Steven, give it a shot. What do you have to say?
Wait, say that again?
What are the best ways to stop people from doing things that they know are stupid?
Why do they do stupid things?
That wasn't the question. We're asking you questions, Steven. You're supposed to...
I forgot. I don't get out of the cage very often. I like shock collars. I think they're super efficient. Sometimes, Sean Dawson will
That's
use one
not
on me.
part of the episode. We're going to skip this segment. So we'll come back to those questions when we have
you want to
someone...
talk about a shock
When we
collar?
have someone with, a brain, and we'll skip over to John's questions for Steven for now, or Shmon McGee, I should say,
yes.
on the record. First off, tell Steven I said, fuck you.
Well, I've never even met the Shmon McGee guy. He doesn't sound very nice.
I don't know, I like him. He's really there, 180. He's one of my favorite viewers now. How is your day going? Nobody cares. That's actually the comment. Ask him how his day is, and then tell him nobody cares. So we wanted to let you know nobody cares. Do you play any sports?
Well, yes. I'm actually very good at curling.
I'm not surprised. The next question.
Wait, can I go in depth on curling?
Go ahead. What have you got for us, Steven?
Well, so I just want to let everybody know I'm like an A1 sweeper, okay? My skills with the broom, I'm matched. I can sweep that little rock thing. I don't actually know what it's called because nobody ever plays curling with me. but I just
like curling alone.
Yes, I do. I actually throw the rock and sweep it myself, and I just gotta run really fast. And also, I've never been ice skating.
This is going to be your last appearance on the podcast. All right. If Steven could not be a bitch for one day of the week, which day would he choose?
Probably Thursday. And let me tell you why. So, I have a tough relationship with Thursdays because, Monday is arguably the worst day of the week, but I think Thursdays, because you're not at the weekend yet, but you're like so close that you're like, oh my gosh, like I just wish it could be the weekend so that I can finally use the bathroom. But now that it's Thursday and I can't use the bathroom yet, I get sad.
You lost me somewhere along the way. I really don't know what goes on in that tiny, tiny brain of yours. So, we're going to what's your favorite state of matter? Do you know the states of matter, Steven?
Yes, I would say Nebraska.
What does
That
Steven
is a state that matters.
Please don't talk. What does Steven think about Anchor?
Oh, Anchor is a free website where you could where you can distribute your podcast, and it goes to many different outlets. I highly recommend using Anchor.
I don't know if Anchor wants you representing them, but I get another person on Team Anchor. I guess we'll call it a plus.
Anchor is so simple that I can follow it with no problem.
So I guess this next question seems to be for me. How soon does Steven die in the magical squaggle? So for those of you who know the
magical
squaggle, if
squaggle?
you know. I think Steven dies. Pretty much everyone in the squaggle. The first choice they get to make is whether or not they'd like to kill Steven. And if they all say no,
And they all say no.
then they all die for making the wrong decision. There's really either everyone dies or Steven dies.
This game
That's the only way
seems
the
a little
squaggle
rigged.
No, it's very planned, very according to plan. This is how it was designed.
This is the worst interview I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, how many have you been a part of? How many people really want to talk to you, Steven?
Well, I'll have you know that I was interviewed by my dad on if I finished all the pancakes or not.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. We'll come back to this.
You want to hear about my pancake
No,
story?
we are coming back to it another year. Lastly, if Steven could stop one major event in all of history from happening, which event would he choose?
Wow, that is a tough one. I think I would stop. Remember that time Michael Jackson died? I wish that I could have been the one to kill him.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave? Wow. I mean, I did not expect this side of Steven to come out live on air, so we're going to give you, maybe like 6 seconds for closing statements, and then we're gonna have you, pause the episode if you know how to do that by now. This is like episode 9.
Yes.
And we'll have Sean come in and carry on from here. So what is your closing statement?
When do my 6 seconds start?
And that's all the time we have for Steven. Give him a
Wait,
big round of applause, everybody. Yay! All right, now we're gonna run you a special, advertisement.
I'm here now, Dawson.
Cool. We're just about to do our.
Hey, everybody, it's Sean. I'm back.
Hey,
now.
Sean. We're about to do our advertisement for the week.
Oh, what's this week's advertisement?
Something about cheese.
Cheese addiction. Do you suffer from cheese addiction? If so, call 1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1 and you may be entitled to $9,000 in cheese-related medicinal aid.
I tried to keep that going.
And we're back. That was an exclusive little bonus interview with Steven. Sean,
I'm glad I wasn't here to hear it.
I'm real sorry you missed it. I had such an uncomfortable time.
You did
hearing
lock the
these
cage
boys.
again, right?
I didn't lock the cage. I pretty much burned it. He is feeling this one. So we'll get Steven back out on the show if we,
Get more
So-
comments.
Anyway, I did want to pass a few of the questions for Steven on to you. We'll start with Shmon McGee's. And I'll acknowledge, we didn't ask him what he thinks about square wheels. That one's on me. But I wanted to know if you could stop one major event in all of history from happening, which event would you choose? I think this is a really good question to go into.
Yeah, like, do we get recognition for stopping it?
I guess it depends.
Or are you like a
if
silent
you're getting
hero?
recognition, to me, that implies you stay in that time period after you stop it.
So what are our rules for this question?
I think it's more of you can stop an event in history, and then you're in that future as you would be if that event never
Oh,
happened. So you
gosh.
don't get
Okay.
you don't get the credit, and you don't get to live out the timeline. You're just in the new timeline after you've stopped an event.
Can I say the Big Bang?
You can? I don't know why. Yeah.
Well,
hit me with
okay.
it.
So if you stop the Big Bang, you have essentially stopped all evil from entering the universe.
That's pretty stupid. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, because if you just pick like one catastrophic event in human history, so like say I said 9/11, well then people are going to get mad that, oh, you didn't choose the Holocaust, oh, you didn't choose the Crusades. There's so many events in history that I could have stopped, so why not just stop them all with the Big Bang?
Because you also stop everything that is good. Quite.
An
clearly.
eye for an eye. I mean,
I
What's your
strongly
answer?
disagree with this concept. I think ending all human life would be the catastrophic event. I don't
that
think
you would
can
stop.
argue- I would stop you from stopping the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we've countered each other out. The world is fine. We've used our 2 wishes from the genie, and we are ready to keep on living.
Wow.
I did want to see so a few ways to help people stop doing things that they know are stupid.
This
So
one,
the first thing that comes to mind for me
Yeah.
is like smoking cigarettes. I think something that obviously can be very enjoyable but is incredibly addictive, and nicotine's obviously very bad for you.
mhm.
So that's obviously more of a serious pattern, but that's kind of the thing that I would imagine. You shouldn't do it, but you're still doing it.
So how are you going to stop these guys?
Well, is it on me now? You passed it on already?
Oh, okay. So you're asking me how I would stop people from smoking cigarettes?
Just things in general that they know are stupid, but they're doing anyway.
I feel it's just so hard. Like, I mean, cigarettes, if we roll with that example, like, they took away positive commercials for it and now only have negative ones. So, like, if you're watching, so I guess, like, through marketing, you could potentially do this.
So I want to clarify. I'm thinking more on a personal scale. Like somebody who's smoking. It's not like I'm saying nobody should smoke even. I think it's bad for you, but people do what they do.
Yeah.
But on a wide scale, I'm not saying how do you stop people from smoking. I'm saying your neighbor. You're very close with him. He smokes and he knows it's wrong. How do you get him to stop?
Well, so, I mean, my initial reaction would be to first talk to him and, like, try and talk it through with him. And then if his smoking is really bothering me that much, that I would be even, initiate this kind of conversation in the first place. I would try and help the guy as much as I could to kind of wane off smoking.
But
But-
only if it bothers you.
Yeah, I mean, because I agree with you. Like, I'm more libertarian in that sense, where it's like, if he's smoking and he chooses to and it's not bothering
See,
me, then let him smoke.
I guess for me, I'm thinking more on the lines of, he would be happier not smoking, but he smokes anyway.
And
That
he's
kind of
expressed that
mentality.
to you?
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I would lean into helping him as much as I could.
So how do you provide that help though? What does that help look like?
Well, like motivation. So like if I walk outside and I see him smoking, I'm just gonna tackle him and beat the shit out of him. I would like I would be like, whoa, like you're not supposed to be doing that. Like, you know, cut that out or whatever, smack it out of his hand, and then kind of help him like, if he's like, I can't really afford the nicotine patch, like okay, like if it really means that much to you, I'll buy you those boxes and help you like wane off of it. So financially and motivationally, I would try and help this person.
For me, I think a lot of it is almost, and I think the question how it was phrased to me implies this knowledge of, I would rather not do this thing, but you're almost pathologically drawn to it. Whether it's addiction or whether it's just part of your pathology where you don't want to do it, but instinctively you find yourself doing it. That seems to be the situation. And the big solution seems like you have to find the root, So smoking's just an easy example. I don't want to go hard on smokers, but the idea being like you reach for the cigarette. That's where you think, am I going to smoke this or can I do anything else? Like anything else right now. It's not how much you're smoking a day. It's every time you are in the mood to smoke, that initial impulse, that's what you start trying to deal with. And I think, being there for the person over an extended duration of time, something where it is like the less they do it, the less prominent it'll be. It's really, if you stick with them, I think you can help them kill that habit pretty easily by just, being on them and really being like, you don't want to smoke a cigarette right now. You've expressed that already. But things that are more, sporadic and kind of just come up, I guess, I think it is finding a way to discover what the root of that action is and to detach from it. If you can detach from the root, then you won't be so instinctively drawn into it. You'll be deciding to do it. And that means you'll have a choice not to do it rather than you just find yourself there.
It does get complicated, though, because the root of wanting to smoke is, the nicotine addiction. So that's like a chemical imbalance that's happening in their body. Like, that's hard to decide. It's hard to decide to stop smoking. So continuing with the smoking example, like, what is your advice with trying to find that root when the root is kind of a physical phenomenon?
Yeah, I think often of it as a very mental phenomenon in terms of like wanting to smoke, because I think that's what you're able to find. I think the physical one just has to be a personal understanding that itch to smoke won't go away until you stop. And it's hard because I've never been addicted to something. You could say I've been addicted to Skyrim or like TV or something, but I've never had a physical addiction.
Inhibiting addiction.
Well, yeah, a chemical addiction of any sort.
Yeah, okay.
I've never been physically, like maybe coffee would be the closest because caffeine's physically addictive.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've never really been big into caffeine. So I don't know what that physical draw is like. And a big part of why I could never get into smoking is to be frank, I'm scared of physical addiction because I think mental addiction is very easy to overcome in comparison.
Yeah.
I think it's so much easier to mentally be like, well, I need to stop this than to tell your body not to feel the way it does.
Yeah.
So it's hard answering from the outside, but I'd say you just have to have the knowledge that, when you're feeling that itch, doing what you want to do is just going to bring it back. Like, it's going to continue the cycle, and you have to have some sort of mental fortitude, which I think, again, having somebody with you to just be like, man, I want to smoke, but I shouldn't, and them keeping you from smoking, like socially even, that seems to be the solution to the physical itch. But again, I don't know how it is, and it could be, I'm sure it is incredibly strong and hard to overcome for people who genuinely want to quit. So it's an interesting question. We'll bring on a doctor at some point and see what he says on our next episode. We'll get Dr. Frank Wilson.
Yes.
And then the last one from Steven's interview I thought was interesting was the lack of presence of classical music today.
Yeah. To be fair, like, I'm also not a huge classical fan. I respect the greats, and I've played a lot of classical music even, but in my day-to-day life, I don't really listen to that much classical music. So is that a problem? Maybe. I think people who have never even tried it, because I've definitely listened to classical music. I think for people to not know famous composers and not know like who they have influenced, who influenced who, like I find that stuff fascinating no matter what era. So I think there's definitely a lot to learn from classical music, musically mostly. I'm not sure like how much classical music can help you with your accounting class. But from a musician standpoint, and just when you're learning theory and composition, like just delving into the world of classical music, I think is very beneficial.
Yeah, I think what's crazy to me is how it's almost non-existent unless you look for it. You know, there's so much music out there, but so much of it's very generic and very watered down. And I think usually good classical music has a lot of that passion to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about, something like Pink Floyd and Great Gig in the Sky. And I feel like you can really feel that song, even though it's kind of just madness. But you can feel like an intensity to it. And I feel that way about a lot of good piano. And we'll talk about the Disney movie Soul at the end of this, so we can go into more detail.
Mm-hmm.
But they had piano in it, and like good piano playing where he's really feeling himself. And I think there is something insane about classical piano to me, where it feels like you can the notes are playing in your head. It's this rhythmic, beautiful noise where all of the notes make me feel like there's this crazy motion going on. And there's something really incredible to it that I think's lost in modern music. It's very bass heavy. It's very, instant gratification. And I think classical music there's an effort, there's a work, and there's emotion that is hard to capture, that's done well in classical music that we've kind of lost respect for as a society.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's sad, but I think instant gratification's just more sustainable in today's society. And that's kind of the way we're moving as a society.
Well, there are modern composers as well,
Yeah.
right?
I guess it just seems like, in the public eye, you're not getting exposed to that, though. The only way you'll find classical music is if you look for it.
There is a modern composer, and I'm trying to look him up, but my S key is broken on my
man.
laptop. But he wrote this song, and I believe it's under 10 minutes, I think, but it's just silence. And it's meant for a full orchestra. It's written for a full orchestra. And I know if I heard the name, I'd obviously recognize it. But he said that silence is a sound. And so this whole song is kind of like an exploration of silence, which I thought was very interesting.
Is it 433 by John Cage?
Yes, and that's how long the silence is. That's what it is. So there's also, I want to say it's like In the Mind of King James, or The Mind of King James or something, but that's also like a modern composition, and I believe that one's like almost 20 minutes long, and it's just King James. You know how this dude was actually crazy, like the King James III who ruled over the colonies.
One of those James.
Yeah. He was actually he was inbred, he was actually crazy.
That was
And
how it worked back
Yeah.
then.
So this song is about him, and it's just this dude, obviously dressed as King James, and he's shrieking the entire time. And there's a lot of string and orchestral music behind it, but it really is just oh my gosh, the sound bar on the computer. So to say that the point of talking about modern composers too is that if you're oh, I can't really get into Moonlight Sonata, you know, like I can't really get into Mozart, I can't get into Bach, then you know, I'm not expecting you to listen to 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence, but there are modern composers out there who are still carrying on this beautiful music and are still trying to do inventive things. And I think there's stuff to be explored in that realm as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's not a dead art. It just seems like it's not a respected art. And I don't know if
Really?
it ever was, because I wasn't around when these composers were. But it's weird to me that you'll never turn on the radio and hear classical music. You'll have to find a station, and that's the only way you'd ever hear it. And to me, music is, you know, an expression of someone very often. And I think a lot of pop stars, you know, they put in serious effort to make what they make, but it's so digitalized and published and polished and altered and, you know, transfixed into this sound that people are going to play, you know, at a beach with their friends. And I think one of the most impressive musical feats to me has always been people who play the piano well, because I don't understand the keys, I don't understand the noises they make, and seeing somebody's hands put them together, and, you know, I don't know any, like, master pianist, but, like, seeing a piano player play and hearing the noise, like, that sync to me doesn't exist. It's kind of taking two entirely different worlds and putting them together into something amazing that I just can't comprehend in my brain. And I think, you know, I want to learn some piano, and the more I do, maybe it'll even be less amazing because I'll sort of know what's going on behind the magic.
Sure.
But to me, just like a piano is such a skill instrument, such a talent instrument. And I think, you know, with the rise of EDM, there's a skill and a talent to making electronic music.
Definitely.
But I think there's a lot less honing your craft and a lot more finding what'll sell, you know? Less expression of the self and more expression of society.
Yeah, it depends on who you are, because I'm sure there are EDM artists that take their work very seriously, as they should.
And I'm sure they take it seriously, but I feel like something about it too, and one way I've always thought about it is, as much as you can respect somebody who makes a really good electronic track, they never have to perform it. Once it's done, they just hit play, and that sounds the same every single time.
Yeah.
If you are able to perform a piece, you know it, and you have to do this insane musical dance every time you're on stage. And even if you just perform it once live, like, there's something incredulous to that. And when you're just like, all right, well, I made 20% of my song on my laptop, another 20% today, and then you slap it all together, you edit it, you mix it, and then it's just this processed piece that you can always hit play, and it'll sound the exact same. There's no lingering note, there's no off note that you have to recover from. It's all the same piece repeated. And that kind of gets to me. I feel like that takes a lot of the magic out of the art.
Yeah, I do somewhat agree. I do respect, as someone who can't do any mixing of any kind, I respect those artists. But also, like, coming more from a jazz background and actually playing instruments, like, I would agree that, I mean, these musicians who play in the symphonic orchestras, wherever it be, or philharmonic, like, they go to college, they work years, and they spend hours, like hours that total up to months and years of their own lives towards playing their instrument. And so, you know, even to be a member of these type of orchestras, like, you've just put in so much time into playing this instrument and honing this craft that I don't think EDM artists can even rival. And composers have probably double that kind of time, you know? So, yeah, I think it is definitely more respectable in a way towards orchestral musician, like any musician who has put that kind of time into their instrument. Just from my background, I tend to idolize and kind of respect those kinds of people more than just your regular DJ. So, yeah, I mean, also practicing and practice rooms in general. I don't know if you've ever been in a college practice room, but it is like solitary confinement. It's 4 white walls. You get a piano and you get a music stand and a chair. And you're expected to sit in this room for like 8 hours and learn whatever music you're working on at that time. Like,
See,
that's dedication.
I have been in them, and I always thought, like, this would be fun if I had somebody sitting there with me who I could complain to. You know, I'd be like, man, this sucks. And they were like, yeah, it does suck. And I'd be like, yeah, it sucks. And then I'd keep playing, you know. I'd
Yeah.
be like, well, as long as somebody acknowledges what I'm going through, I think it would really ease the pain.
They're scary.
Yeah, you know,
Practice rooms.
but it
like-
also looks really motivating, you know? Like, well, I guess there's nothing to do but this instrument. Might as well figure out
It's
how it
true,
works.
and that's what they're designed for. I think if you are on campus, if you are on a college campus and Rona's over, maybe you're listening to this like a year after coronavirus, I highly recommend just walking through your music building on campus and just walking past the practice rooms, because you're going to hear everything. You're going to hear a trumpet player not hitting the right high notes, and then right next to him you're going to hear a genius piano player who definitely doesn't belong in freshman music theory. Like, it's just such a wide array of instruments you're going to hear, and a wide array of talents, and just different musical cultures that you could even hear. Like, it is really fun sometimes just to walk past it, and it's fun when you know people as well, because they usually have little windows on the door, so you're able to like mess with them and stuff too.
I definitely get distracted easily too. I made The Gospel According to Gerke, something I'm going to start recording.
Yeah, I've been
now.
listening to it. Yeah,
I put the first episode on
I
Spotify.
saw
I
it.
hope you don't mind.
No.
But I'll probably keep it on YouTube. But one of the things the challenge was to do half an hour of meditation, and to just, you know, be quiet and not have something as the sole focus of your mind. You know, kind of just sit with your thoughts.
So half an hour of that recording is silent.
No,
Oh.
on your own time.
We
no.
will now start the meditation segment.
That would be a quick way to make money, man. Just record myself meditating every week. But so I was there. I was like 25 minutes in, and I had gotten real lost in my thoughts. You know, maybe it's my ADHD brain, but I go off somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I got thinking to the post I made, and I was like, oh yeah. And I grabbed my phone and I opened it up, and without even thinking, I was like, wow, I'm on my phone. Like, I've just been sitting here, and all of a sudden, without even thinking, I was on my phone, and I was upset.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 seconds I was on my phone before I turned it off. But
Okay.
instinctually, I grabbed my phone and I looked at it, and I was like, this is bad. Like,
Yeah.
I can't be doing this, where when I just turn my brain off long enough, something in me says, oh, let me grab my phone.
I thought about this today too, because when I woke up, it was the first thing I reached for, and I was like, I don't like that. It was the same way. Instinctually, I reached for it. I didn't like it.
And I am going to reach for it now because I want to open up my list of top 5 favorite fish.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah,
this was a
so I've
segment.
got this ready.
Real quick before we get into this intense conversation. So I did a sound bowl meditation one time. Did I tell you about
Yeah,
this? Yeah. We got to go in DC.
Mhm.
And me and my family member Lily, we have a she is family, but it's just complex. So anyway, we did a sound bowl meditation, and it's this big room, big open room. They give you a mat and a pillow, and you could also get blankets. So like some people like straight up fell asleep, which I thought was really interesting because you pay money. So people were like paying money to just fall asleep in this big room with strangers. But so yeah, I'm sitting next to Lily. I'm sitting next to all these different people, and like different people, like all walks of life. There were people coming in suits, and there were people coming in who looked like they just got back from Woodstock. Like very interesting group of people. And like it was a nice place. They give you water. The pillows were nice and everything. I hope they washed the blankets. Anyway, I forget the teacher's name, but she was exactly who you would think would be leading a guided meditation. And so she had 2 bowls, Obviously, they were harmonic. They weren't dissonant because that'd be hard to meditate. But you close your eyes and she starts playing these bowls constantly. It's not a song. It's literally just two notes that are constantly playing.
And I've heard of Tibetan singing bowls, and I do remember. I wonder if that's what she uses because
They're like
it's something very similar.
I
if
want to
not.
say they're brass or like some type of metal, and then you just have a stick and you tap it once, and then you guide the vibrations.
And
around.
I've seen this before in the ASMR community, which is why I know it's Tibetan singing bowls,
Yeah.
but it could be something else.
It was so fascinating, and I really did. I took it seriously, and I sat there for a half hour, and I really was able to find myself in this weird state between sleep and consciousness. And I didn't see like hallucinations per se, but like I did see a bunch of colors, kind of like when you close your eyes and stuff. And she said you could have your eyes open or eyes closed. I'm not sure why you would do eyes open, but maybe there is some method behind that. But I did eyes closed, and like I just saw so many colors, and I had a really relaxing time and enjoyable time. And it was weird stepping out into reality, like leaving this building, because like it was so peaceful in there, and then you go outside into the city, and cars honking and people walking everywhere. But we got to go to a guided meditation sometime. It was awesome.
Definitely. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And my thoughts, the two things are, I think maybe you'd have your eyes open because you want to kind of experience it from more of a wake state and more of like an alert state. And that relaxation from an alert state, which seems like a contradiction. But, maybe if you go a lot, it is trying to like keep yourself relaxed while you're in your normal day and apply it to your normal day. Which is something I think about a lot, taking like meditative principles and spiritual principles and just actually putting them in life rather than taking time to do them. And then sleeping, as much as it's weird to pay somebody and then go to sleep, there are good sleeps. There's a couple times in my life where I have had like the sleep,
Yeah.
that good. And I think if you could pay somebody to get that sleep, I think I understand it.
Interesting.
Because there's a level of like, I haven't slept this well in a long time. Like, you just wake up feeling like you could run a marathon because you're just so internally rested. Even not just even like your body's recharged, but your mind is like satisfied, you know? And even if it's just a nap, I think it could probably have some sort of effect like that given the environment you're in. But I too think I would probably be more along the line like you were, which is, definitely taking it seriously, but also like trying to stay alert and having my eyes closed, and kind of just thinking about my thoughts and seeing where I go. I think it's interesting you see colors or you did see colors, because I believe the human mind is capable of a lot of things, and we're only in a certain state of mind. And I do think that, if you were to isolate yourself long enough, you would go crazy and you would hallucinate. And
Yeah.
I think the idea is that that's just an example of your mind can create things that aren't really there in this physical world. And that alone, I think, tells you there's certain reactions to like drugs and obviously that involve these psychedelic properties where you see things. And I think a lot of those can be achieved without taking anything if your mind is in the right state. And getting it there is an incredible feat.
Yeah.
But I think just, putting your mind in that state would have a very similar effect. It's just there are things that put your mind there for you. It kind of rapidly accelerates the process. I'm trying to think of that science term where you drop something in and it like speeds up.
Catalyst.
Catalyze. Yeah, it's a catalyst for the process of getting your brain to this, not only just relaxed but out of world state where things are so different from that normal city life where everyone's honking and there's all this noise around you and there's all this environment.
And meditation is believed to be the way to do it.
And apparently in the East, like, they kind of knew what was up. And I feel like the West lost a lot of that. And I do think it would be interesting to take a trip to, like, India and some real cultural place, even like guided meditation there, where their culture is more tuned in to this.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like if you're doing it in America, it's an experience of a culture that's almost inherently not American. I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
it could be hippie culture, but
Almost nothing's American, right?
well, yeah, but cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. They have that for white people. Like you can go to like these temples in the mountains and pay thousands of dollars to do it. I don't know how legitimate they are, but there definitely are ways to achieve this.
Mhm.
But anyway, so I proposed this today. Podcasts I listen to, they always do some sort of lists, and I feel like everyone's done the movie list. Everyone's probably done the book list before.
What you're all thinking.
Yeah. So I was like, well, let's freaking do the fish list. So Dawson and I have both concocted 5 fish. And are yours in like best, or are you a top 5?
I'm thinking it's kind of like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. There may be some
Okay.
dispute. In general, it's a top 5 list, but they are kind of ranked.
Mine.
So are we starting at 5 or 1?
We'll start with 5. I feel like mine are kind of just these are 5 cool fish, but I can rank them.
Yeah, give it a best shot as what the 5th best would be.
Okay, you want me to start?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with the boxfish. This is my number 5. So here's what I wrote about the boxfish. They have curvy lips, so like really puckered lips. They come in 3 colors, brown, yellow, and orange. And they're polka dotted. They're super cute. They are really slow, and they have super tiny fins. And they have heavily armored scales, so they're like knights, and they also can secrete poison from their skin. So not only are they a box, rock solid, colorful, but they can also kill you. And they are found in the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans.
Ooh. So my number 5 is, I called it the demon fish. I believe it's actually the anglerfish maybe.
Okay.
But if you've ever seen Nemo out there, and if you haven't, why not?
Yeah.
There's a scene where they go deep, deep in the water, and there's a light, and they're like, oh, what's that? And it's a fish with like a little antenna on the front of it where a light hangs down, and it looks like a demon. Now, it's a spooky fish, but I
Big
think...
jaw, teeth everywhere, ugly.
And it is an ugly motherfucker.
Yeah.
I think this fish is my number 5 top because it really demonstrates how little we know about what's out there in the water. The farther down you go, there's some weird looking stuff.
For sure.
And I think it's the anglerfish or maybe the angelfish. Angler?
It's the angler.
Yeah, the angler. Demon fish is my number 5 because of mainly its appearance and the fact that it has a built-in flashlight.
Fun fact about the anglerfish. Those big fish, those are the females. The males are kind of small, squirmy things, and they attach to the females, but they morph into the female. They like their skins become one, and it just kind of becomes this like little jettison pod that's attached to the bottom of the female anglerfish.
That is the life.
And he eats all her food and whatnot. So, fun fact about anglerfish. My number 4, I'll do the psychedelic frogfish. So I highly recommend looking this one up on Google Images because just listening about it in a podcast is not enough. But it has this is what I wrote for it. It has swirly stripes all over its body, but it doesn't have scales. It has skin. So it's like this blob of flesh.
Is it blobfish?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I wrote straight up ball of blub. Is what I wrote. Its face is completely flat, and it also doesn't swim. It like bounces on the seafloor. So people kind of compare it to a bouncy ball. But it's like if you're in the pool and like you swim to the bottom and then you kind of push off with your arms and kind of that I guess outward motion, that's what they do on the ocean floor. They just kind of bounce around. So they look trippy and they bounce around like a ball. It's my number 4.
Who taught them how to swim? So my number 4 is going to be salmon. Great for sushi. I believe it's one of those fish that you can pretty much just eat raw.
Yeah.
is why I picked it. I think it's the fish that rains in Life of Pi.
Okay.
And he's out in this boat with a tiger, and he's like, man, am I hungry. And I think he's technically a vegetarian. But it rains salmon, if I'm correct. And the idea is that even in this boat in the middle of nowhere, he could eat this salmon because you can pretty much just eat it raw. You know, it's probably not the best idea, but it's safe to consume raw. And I think that's really cool. A fish that you can pretty much just grab and take off the outside, obviously, and then eat. I think that's very useful. I think it's very, 5 out of 5 in utility. It's got a pretty good flavor, 4 out of 5 in flavor, 10 out of 10 in being used in sushi. It is used in sushi.
Yes.
So
Spicy salmon
I
rolls.
respect the salmon.
Salmon. My number 3 is flying fish. So apparently there's actually like 40 species that fit into this category, but I'm talking about like the ones you've probably seen on TV or in books, but like they're the silver ones with black wings. They're found in the Tasman Sea, which I didn't know existed until recently. But these motherfuckers, they can take off at 37 miles per hour. So they're like actually shooting out of the ocean, and they can go like 650 feet on one push, which is pretty freaking nuts.
I can do that.
Flying fish, number 3.
My number 3 is the 7-colored fish. So it's
How many colors is it?
Well, it's actually 7. It's a rare rainbow fish that has never been caught by mortal man. Now, this is actually a card from Yu-Gi-Oh! But it's only 4 stars, and it has an attack of 1,800, which is a great base level card. I know they changed
Wow.
Yu-Gi-Oh! And added a lot into the game, but back into the day, if you had a 7-colored fish and Mako Tsunami always did, it was a power card to drop out. And then you could special summon Skull with it if you wanted. But, it was a strong card for only 4 stars, because if it's 5 stars, you have to sacrifice something to summon it. So it was one of the strongest 4 stars of its time with an 1,800 attack force.
Is that more powerful than a Magikarp?
Well, assuming Magikarp was in Yu-Gi-Oh!, I imagine it'd have like a 0 attack or maybe like a 200 or something.
So it's like a
definitely.
it'd be a good fight.
Honestly, it's probably closer to Gyarados than it is Magikarp.
Okay, well that's up for debate. My number 2, I'm gonna do the sea toad. So the sea toad is a deep sea creature, much like the anglerfish. It's pretty small, but this guy also doesn't swim. He has 2 tiny legs, and he kind of just walks.
Isn't this a frog though? Is this really a fish?
No. If you look it up, it looks like a fish. And I think it is classified as fish.
All right.
So it's like an orangish red color. It's pretty ugly, and it's also considered an ambush fish. So those are fish like the anglerfish is one where it literally just attacks its prey out of nowhere. So sea toad, number 2.
My number 2 is just gonna be cod. I like cod.
Cod.
It tastes really good. If you get fish and what I learned recently is, I can't remember where, but there's only like one area where cod is caught, and I'm pretty sure like the world, and I can't remember where it is, but there's like one place cod is caught, and then it's just distributed, if I'm correct.
That's
which I think is
crazy.
pretty neat, and it just tastes real good. Cod, plain and simple, number 2.
We'll get back. I want to know what your favorite fish is to eat, but we'll come back
Cod.
to that. Really?
I would say, what would you say?
If just fish, I would probably say salmon as well, because I like salmon in sushi and cooked too, and there's like a bunch of recipes obviously for salmon. So my number 1 though of like cool fish is the black chimera. So this guy, his mom is a shark and his dad is a manta ray. This dude literally comes from both of those types of organisms. So he's awesome. It doesn't have any bones, just cartilage. So it's like really mushy. It has 2 hearts.
Ooh.
And it's poisonous. It's like 5 feet long, and it has some really cool nicknames. It's called the spookfish and the ghost shark. And one other thing I wrote about it, it can also retract its appendages.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
People say aliens aren't real.
the black chimera is my number one
Man
fish.
has more than one heart. So my number one fish is Oscar from Shark Tales. He is voiced by Will Smith.
Yes.
He is at the car wash. He has it going on, you know. He's got big dreams, big goals. He plays with sharks, you know. He's got a good company. I think Oscar's definitely a strong number one contender.
That's a good
for
pick.
me.
That's a
Yeah.
good pick. Is Oscar more influential than Nemo?
Yes.
Okay.
Nemo did well, but Finding Dory, Nemo really came off as like needy. He was like, what if we had a second movie that was bad? And it was like, Shark Tales 2 will probably exist, honestly, but I haven't seen it. So I'm giving Oscar the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Let me look up Shark Tales 2. All right. Oh, well, Shark Tales 2 is an upcoming 2021 animation.
No
This
way.
is not canon, but it says it's an upcoming sequel. And also below that, people also ask, why is Shark Tale so bad? So I think that's just unfair. Oscar from Shark Tale is a cleaner wrasse, I guess. So that's Oscar for you.
Interesting. Do we want to announce the contest for episode 10
We
before
do.
going into Soul?
Yes. What woman are we at, by the way?
We are at 51.
Okay,
right
so we'll
now.
do the contest now and close with Soul.
Okay. So, yeah, we've been doing this for over 10 weeks, and we're coming up on episode 10. So, round of applause for us. Thank you for clapping out there. So, to celebrate, we're going to do a little contest for you guys. So, if you guys have made it this far on episode 9 at 51 minutes, you guys are the real fans, and you're going to be eligible to enter.
We're going to
So-
have to inform people to listen to
Yeah,
this episode.
yeah. Everyone's eligible, so no purchases are necessary. But we'll get to that in a second. Put a little asterisk on that. So
Pay to win.
all you do, it's a raffle, and so all you do to get one ticket into the raffle is to follow Paranormal Snail Entertainment on Instagram, and then post, whichever episode is your favorite onto your story and tag us. So doing that, you only get one ticket for doing this. So that by posting us, following us, and posting us on your story, that immediately gets you one ticket into the raffle. Now, the prize for this raffle is 2 boxes of Girl Scout cookies, whatever cookies you want. We're going to order them for you. So
Do we have a list of all the different types of cookies or no?
I do not on me. I'm sure.
We'll get it on the gram or
Yeah,
something.
everyone knows the Girl Scout cookies. But so you'll get 2
Oreos.
boxes of
They don't have
whatever Girl Scout cookies you want. Now, if you're like, oh man, like I really want those 2 boxes, one ticket isn't enough. Every box of Girl Scout cookies that you purchase using a link that we'll provide in the Spotify description, YouTube description, we'll have it on the Instagram. So there is a certain link that you have to click. But every box of Girl Scout cookies you order with this link and you show us proof of purchase, you'll get one more ticket entered into the raffle. So you could potentially win 3 boxes of Girl Scout cookies just by purchasing 1 box of Girl
So
Scout
you'd
cookies.
still win too.
Yeah, you're still winning too, but now you're a man who only spent $5 and has 3 boxes of Girl Scout cookies.
That is quick math. I'd
So it's a really good deal, and you're going to be supporting a family friend. So that is our contest. You'll have until
We'll let you know.
right now. The tentative date would be January 27th or 28th.
Probably at least February 3rd.
Oh, okay. So we'll give 2 weeks.
Yeah, so there's
Okay.
a little time for this to
So
get
you
hyped
have
and
until
all.
February 3rd to post about us and order Girl Scout cookies from our link.
Follow the gram, and I guess if you post on the story, make sure to tag us so we can
Yeah,
see it.
you
and
have
we can
to
track
tag
it
us.
down, and then we can add you to our entry or
So-
make a post. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah,
I know
anyone
you
is
care
eligible.
about your timeline, so we won't go that far.
So that will be our episode 10 special, and then we will be announcing the winner on episode 10, and we'll be in contact with you.
Well, this
to
is
get your
episode 9,
cookies.
so we'll probably announce at episode 11.
Oh, you're
because
thinking
that'd be
11?
February 3rd.
Okay. So
And-
yeah, so episode 10 special, but we're going to announce the winners on episode 11. And we're trying to give you guys as much time as possible to enter. So, and the cookies are shipped directly to your house too. You don't have to do any work.
How long is this cookie thing going? 'Cause
Till the
worst
end of
case we could-
February.
Okay, cool.
So
Ballin'.
that is our episode 10 special. Follow Paranormal Snail Entertainment nonetheless for more updates.
Paranormal Snail Entertainment. So we were talking about Soul. I watched
Yeah,
Soul.
spoiler warning.
Yeah, this is the spoiler part of the
You
podcast.
can leave now if you haven't seen Soul.
If you're a little bitch, get out. No, I hate spoilers, so don't if you haven't seen Soul and you want to watch it, I recommend watching it and then coming back. But it's a great movie.
If you're too poor to afford Disney Plus, though,
I am too, but I got it
You're
for Christmas, so screw you. The future is here.
So, what are your thoughts on Soul?
I thought it was amazing. I did not
I did
expect
too.
to like it so much. So, it's the story of this guy who's basically like, man, I'm a music teacher, and these kids suck. I hate this. And he's like, I get to play with...
Well, he doesn't hate it because the kids suck. He hates it because he's not a real musician.
Yeah, but the kids suck. So, who's he going to play with? I already forgot the name.
I don't know. A famous saxophonist.
Yeah, he gets to play with this famous saxophonist. And he's all excited. He's all, up. He's like, oh my God. He makes a call. He's like, yeah, I got a gig with this chick. And he's walking home, I guess. And he falls down a vent and dies. And
sewer,
yeah.
not a vent.
Well, red vented.
Stinky vent.
Yeah, stinky vent, yes. A stink vent. And he dies pretty early in the movie,
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be over, but no.
It was great timing.
Yeah, and there's the great beyond. And I like how they said the great beyond because they didn't deny that there's an afterlife, but they really hit death on the right note. They didn't cater to that idea of, oh, you died, but you're still okay.
Yeah, to be fair, he actually doesn't go to the great beyond. He doesn't actually die all the way. He fights that. I guess, if going on Christian terms, he's almost in a sort of purgatory on this escalator, and then he's able to get out of it.
So the idea is they're getting counted as they go
Yeah.
into the great beyond, and he jumps off the escalator through the wall and goes to the great before, which is before souls are really born.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying assigning their personality. A lot of Disney,
Brilliant
Pixar,
story right off the
animated,
bat.
yeah.
By the way,
A
this
lot
is
of-
so good.
a lot of animated representation of what it's like before you're born. And he's assigned to mentor one of these souls as Dr. Borgenstein because he's not supposed to be there. They think he's somebody else.
Yeah, I also didn't know where he went. They never told us where that doctor goes.
I don't know, but he grabbed the name tag.
I
so
know.
He probably just doesn't have a name tag and he's wandering around
Exactly.
in the great before.
That would have been kind of a funny joke, but whatever.
Yeah, so he's with this soul 22,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea is it's the 22nd soul, but they never found their spark. And
Yeah.
without your spark, you can't go to Earth.
And she's had famous mentors all throughout history.
yeah,
She's
like
had big
the best
names.
men in history have tried to mentor her, and they all hate her.
Yeah.
And she's really drawn to this guy particularly because he's not Dr. Bjorn. He just wants to go back to Earth. This is
Yeah.
something she's never seen
She's a
before.
rule breaker. 22 is a girl. She's a rule breaker, and he's a rule breaker too, essentially.
And he goes on this big journey to get back to Earth, but he ends up in a cat's body, and 22 ends up in his body.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole goofy, he's trying to get ready, and he's trying to get to this performance, and he wants to be ready, and he's like, the whole movie, there's a sense of this tension, and he's like, I need to perform on stage with this famous saxophonist. This is what my life's been leading up to. My life's been really upsetting, depressing. I'm a musician who's never been a musician. This is the one chance I have to turn my life around.
Yeah.
I can't die yet. He's
And,
saying,
like,
I need to be alive.
His own mom isn't rooting for him.
Yeah, and he confronts her, and she's super sweet about it later.
Yeah. After 22 speaks for him,
Yeah.
essentially through his own body.
Yeah.
Um,
And, 22 doesn't want to give up life at the end, basically, and she gets attached to Earth. And there's this whole debacle where he's trying to get his body back, and he ends up back on Earth, basically. There's a lot of story we're jumping over, but
Sure.
the part that I found amazing is there's this whole struggle to give his life meaning, to finally make it to this recital. He walks in before the thing happens. They have a replacement for him because he looked like a homeless man when they last saw him. And he's like, no, I'm playing on stage. It'd be a mistake to play without me. I'm a good musician. This is what my life's been leading up to.
Jazz, by the way. I think
Yeah.
that is important too.
And
Soul.
there's a lot of soul in that for
Yeah.
sure. And she's like, all right. She's like, you know what? You're going to play. We'll see how you do. He gets on stage. He plays the show of his life. Everybody loves the show. And he's part of the quartet now. You know, he's part of this famous jazz quartet. And he's just like, well, what now? And she says, we come back and we do it again tomorrow. And he gets this realization of like, I'm not happy, you know? This isn't happiness. And he spent all this time with 22 in his body. 22 was so amazed to be on Earth for the first time after so long avoiding it. And things like vents that would blow up air. Or
Pizza. Riding the subway.
Things that we take for granted. And it's clear he's taken for granted where life, you know, they were life. They were amazing. And 22 was having a blast. And now he finally gets the one thing. What's his name?
Joe.
Is it Joe?
I'm pretty sure.
Is it Joe? Well,
I'm
we'll
like
call him Joe.
99% certain.
We'll call him Joe. I've already forgotten a lot of the details. That's my brain. But he gets this moment of his life performance, and he gets to be part of this famous quartet he's been looking for his whole life. And he realizes he's not as happy as 22 was when 22 got a haircut or, you know, got to ride the subway or heard street performers and things that Joe has seen every single day and been unhappy with. And it's kind of this realization of life is what you make it. You're not leading up to a purpose. You're not on Earth for a purpose. You're on Earth because you're ready to be on Earth. And you're going to die, and you're going to go to the great beyond. And when you die, you should be ready. You should have had a great time on Earth, so you're ready to go. And he does get bailed out. They say, you know, we're going to give you another chance.
How did you feel about that?
I didn't mind
So here's his bailout, by the way. He realizes that he doesn't enjoy life as much as 22 did. And 22 kind of gave him his body back. So he felt guilty. So he is able to get back to the great before, and he goes, 22, you can have my Earth pass. He's essentially giving up his life so that she can have a life on Earth. And so we find him back on the escalator going back to the great beyond, and then he gets bailed out by the Terrys.
Jerry's. Terry's the one who counts.
Okay, yes. He gets bailed out by the Jerrys.
Jerry's are basically
So-
these nurture figures of the great before.
So finish your thought, but I do want to know your feelings about the bailout.
I guess just talking about the bailout.
Okay.
Like, I thought it was a little frustrating to see like it all leads up to death and you have to be ready. It was satisfying though. It was, well, he's not ready to die clearly. You know, he just got an appreciation for life, so it's good that he gets to enjoy it some.
Yeah.
And I think what I've talked about recently is being okay with dying. I think I still have yet to find a way to be okay with dying until I'm old. I think that's something that I'm uncomfortable with. I think I've recognized death is going to happen, but if I die old, my time has come. If I die young, I feel cheated. I feel like it's wrong, you know, despite the fact that ultimately it doesn't change the cosmic scale of anything. It feels wrong to die young.
Sure.
So I think there is something fun to the idea of, well, you know, he gets a second chance, and now he's going to get to live this life through the eyes of somebody who knows how important it is, and then when he dies, he'll be ready, you know, and I think we can be ready for death. And there's just so much that's, you know, poetic about how this story presents itself.
Yes.
It really is like you have what you need to be happy, regardless of what situation you're in. You have what you need to be content. And if you're looking for something to make you happy, you already have it. That thing is
Yeah,
the
you're
goal.
missing the point,
Yeah.
essentially.
What makes you happy is the fact that there's a sun, the fact that, you know, you can go out and get a slice of pizza. And obviously these aren't luxuries everyone has, but I think the majority of us that are struggling with these upset times have these luxuries. And what I've noticed recently is like it's been depressing with not only coronavirus, but I hate winter.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's cold, I don't want to be outside. It really gets to me. So I think this movie kind of woke me up to to the idea that, sure, it's winter, but, like, I'm still alive, you know? And you get such a limited time before you go to the great beyond. There's just an internal joy inside everybody that we can feel and people kind of neglect because they're busy working or looking for something to make them happy. And they lose that internal happiness that's already been with them, and they get lost. And they talk about lost souls in the movie. And I do think there's a real... It's crazy that Disney and Pixar hit this so close to home.
I absolutely agree. Was probably one of my favorite Pixar movies. I know a lot of Disney fans, especially my brother, who's a big Disney guy. He went into it thinking it was going to be a cutesy story, and then it's this hard-hitting, you know, heavy, questioning the meaning of life kind of movie. I thought the way they portrayed the great beyond and like how the supernatural universe works, I thought it was creative. I thought the animation was mind-boggling. The fact that the Jerrys and Terry were 2D in this 3D space, but then were also translucent. Like you could see through them, and they're bending in these odd shapes, but they're 2D and they're in this 3D space. Holy crap. Like just that animation and that character design really blew me away. For the bailout, I was hoping with this movie being as hard-hitting as it was, I was kind of hoping his sacrifice for 22 would be more. I was kind of hoping they would let him go to the great beyond, and that's how the movie would finish. Now, it is nice that he got to get the second chance, and you see him have a greater appreciation for life, and like, you know, through him, you're like, oh, I should have a greater appreciation as well. But I think letting him die, A, would have been more hard-hitting, no question. And B, I think it would have, you know, he's only like mid-40s in this movie. I think it would have been more hard-hitting on the viewer being like, oh shit, like mid-40s and the Jerry's let Joe die. Like, wow, I'd be halfway through my life, essentially. So the bailout, I understand why Pixar had to do it, essentially, but I was hoping that they would actually let him sacrifice his life. Some more things I loved about this movie are how not only your appreciation for your own life, but appreciation for relationships with people. One of the hardest hitting quotes that hit me was his barber. He only talks about jazz to his barber. Mm-hmm. And then 22's in his body and basically talks about life, you know, and like just kind of having other conversations with the barber. And the barber's like super happy to be talking about this. And he says something along the lines of like, man, when you come in here, the only thing we talk about is jazz. You know, like I would want to tell you all this other stuff about me, but you only talk about jazz.
Yeah, 22 says, why have you never told me about yourself before?
Yeah.
And the barber says, well, you've never asked.
Yeah. That was a very impactful moment that they kind of just, it's not a huge part of the story, but also like if you're to gain anything out of this movie, I think questioning your relationships with people in that positive light is super important. Like making sure that you're talking to people and kind of reaching out to them and making sure that they're doing okay, and like you talk about them, about their interests and stuff. Like I thought that was a really impactful moment in the story as well. Yeah, I loved the story as a whole. I thought it was super creative. The Great Before I thought was a really interesting world. Yeah, great animation. Animating the musicians realistically, like they're actually playing the saxophone in that movie, and I'm sure with the piano and bass they're playing realistically as well. Like these animators sat down with a saxophonist and literally probably learned the saxophone and learned the piano on their own to make sure that they got this animation right. Like the level of detail in this movie, Pixar is getting better and better with every movie. I thought Toy Story 4 was the most phenomenal movie to come out of Pixar, and animation-wise.
Okay.
And I think Soul is right up there as well. Like,
I think
wow, I just have a great respect for
when
Pixar
they took
after
him
this
first
movie.
into the great beyond, for sure, that scene is mind blowing.
Yes.
Like you really don't expect it to hit.
Oh
that
my
hard.
gosh, it's so gorgeous.
And
it's
really
so
like
gorgeous.
there's something that we don't like understand going on. There is some level of cosmic manipulation of everything,
Yes.
and that's what's inside of you.
Yeah.
And I think that was insane. I definitely, and you mentioned your relationships with other people. His mom doesn't support his dreams, and her husband was a musician, and she made all the money. And she's like, well, when I'm gone, who's going to make money when you're running around chasing gigs? Why would you turn down a paying job? And there's this tense relationship going on. And the reason things get better is because he's like, well, I don't know what's going on. I'm in a cat's body. 22's talking to you right now. But, like, I need to express myself. And he says, like, music is all I think about. I would feel like my life wasn't accomplished if I died today. I would feel like it was wasted.
Mm-hmm.
He hits these really hard notes. And his mom listens to him, and she gives him his dad's suit to go play in and makes him look all nice and helps him out.
It's a real moment.
And the idea is that he's been so concerned up to this point about making it to his audition that you can kind of see this rush in his life. It reminded me of that Adam Sandler movie, Uncut Gems, kind of, in that there's this sense of tension. In
Another
the first
great
part.
movie. Oh, there's
And-
tension in the entire film.
Yeah, well, in the first part of Soul, I think the tension kind of shifts into
Yeah.
more, but he talks to his mom. He finally stands up for what he's feeling, and it kind of solves this issue he's been having. He just decides, he's like, well, I'm alive. I might not be for long. He's like, I'm going to have this conversation. And it's a benefit because there's nothing to lose from being honest about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I
And
think-
he's an adult, by the way. Like,
yeah.
this conversation, if your teenager's like, I'm going to drop out of high school to be a musician, all right, there's an argument to be said there. But he's like I said, he's in his 40s, and he has this amazing opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity, by the way. Like, I do not understand why his mom is kind of against it, because it obviously would open so many doors.
Well, what she says, too, is like, these gigs, if I'm gone and all you have is these gigs, you might not be able to eat. And he's like, well, and I don't want to eat. He's like, I just don't want to be alive if I can't do what I love.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think is missing in today's society. People are really geared towards security, and not only financial security, but life security and safety. So when it comes to something that might be dangerous, or it comes to something that might be risky, or that makes you feel alive, people are inclined to back off. And that even stretches to having these conversations and, engaging in these relationships and basic things. So many people, especially young people today, are full of self-confidence issues. And it's impeding their ability to be alive. And maybe that sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
you're really not living. You're just alive and dealing with everything until you die. And then eventually you realize how much time you've wasted.
And they do touch on this for just a short instant when one of the lost souls is this guy in like a stock market firm, and they break him out of this rut that he's in, and he goes, he's so thrilled and happy and joyous that he like throws all the stuff off his desk and he like quits his job and runs out of his office. Like, they touch on that monotony kind of feeling in life in this comedic way, but it's a real feeling. It's a hard-hitting problem that a lot of people are facing, especially those in our age group who are in college and have to maybe find a real job or follow your dreams, or high schoolers or in your mid-40s, they touch on this, but I think it is actually a really important thing to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's really sad how many people do, get stuck. And I feel like you can see, whatever age group you're in, you can see people around you in this rut. And I think I've
Yeah.
definitely seen a lot of people in this rut, even people I'm happy to talk to and have conversations with and hang out with and who have fun. You can kind of tell there's something missing in their head. That spark that's kind of like, wow, like, oh my God, I'm alive. Like, that realization just dims. And they forget.
What the craziest thing is, though, is that everyone knows this about themselves. Like, I, you know, so, you know, Joe knew it about himself. He was a music teacher and he hated it because he was like, oh man, like I know I'd be living if I was performing music and not teaching it. Every accountant knows that they want to be the next singer, they want to be the next guitar player, and they sing and they play guitar at their free time at home. Everyone knows they're in this rut, but no one really knows how to get out of it. And I think that's the cruelest part of life.
And something that's crazy too is like the point is also partially that he can be experiencing life as the music teacher if that's what he chose to do. You know, it's really the fact that you're experiencing life, it's how you interpret it and how you make your decisions. And something is, I saw a post the other day about somebody who was like, I want to be a secretary. And they were like, but you have all of this potential and intelligence. And they're like, I'd like to be a secretary.
Yeah.
Some people just are drawn to things like being a secretary. That is content for them. They like organizing. They like dealing with things. They make a steady income. That's they're happy with it.
Yeah.
And that is okay. I think people, at least they're doing what makes them happy, you know, and at least they're realizing their life. Even if it's through something mundane, they're enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are missing out in the sense of, you know, they're drawn to things that are mundane because they're scared of their own inadequacies of something they really want to do. And what hit me crazy about this movie is people love Soul. And, you know, it's been kind of noted that it's a good movie. And I just saw it for the first time today. But how many people have you had these conversations with? Like, I feel like the closest people in my life, I've talked about these kind of concepts. Yet, clearly everyone thinks of them at some point.
Definitely.
Like, everyone liked Soul. People didn't go into Soul thinking, wow, what, we die? What? So, like, nobody got surprised.
Yeah.
But people just are scared to talk about things like that. They push it away because it's, you know, it's fear, it's risk. And one of the things 22 says is, like, when that guy yelled at me at the subway, I was scared. But I kind of liked it, you know, that feeling, that thrill. And people push away fear and conflict so much that they can enjoy this movie but can't actually actualize it in any way.
Yeah.
And that's what's really sad. They're going to watch this, really feel inspired, and then, you know, the next day they'll totally be bummed out and depressed and nothing's changed.
Yeah. There are baby steps towards getting to that point of happiness that you want. I'm definitely taking those steps right now. Like, I'm in electrical engineering as my major, but I'm falling more in love with like film and with animation, you know? So, yeah, after I finish my homework, I'll go and start doing some animation. I've been learning more softwares to play around with. Like, so while I'm not going to drop out of college and quit everything that I'm doing, in the meantime, I am learning something that maybe if I get good at this, I will have that opportunity to quit and kind of chase after this next creative outlet that I'm looking at. So, I think my point is, I think there are baby steps towards reaching your goals of dreams or happiness. And sometimes it takes dropping out and quitting, but every stand-up comedian seems to have essentially, you know, been homeless at some point or have slept in their car, but like that's part of the deal.
And in the book You Got Me about Jerry Seinfeld, I think at one point he's like, I'm not going to make money. He's like, as long as I can buy like a couple loaves of Wonder Bread and some peanut butter, I can eat that every day for like a year.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever. I like stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And then he becomes famous and he becomes wealthy and he's like, wow. He's like, okay, this works too.
Yeah.
I think the part that really hit most to me in getting to this happy state is a very Buddhist concept and a very religious concept of several, places you'll find it. And it's enlightenment. It's awakening. It's realization. It's the idea that you've already had what it takes to be happy around you. You just have to perceive it differently. You have to realize you're already happy. And when you're not, that can be really hard. But there are these thoughts inside all of us like, I am alive and I'm so happy about that. Like, oh my goodness. People realize that, but don't talk about it, don't think about it, push it away because they don't want to think about death, and they lose touch with it. And the thing that hit me, I'd say the quote that hit me most, was this jazz sax player. it was right after he was like, "What do we do tomorrow, Joe?" And she's like, "We come back and play again." And Joe was like, "Well, this isn't how I thought this would feel. You know, this was the greatest performance, but his life's not ultimately different. He just got to do what made him happy, and he's still not living differently. He's still not appreciating life." And he realized that. He's like, this isn't what it's about, doing the thing that I wanted. It's about being happy, the person I want to be, which you can be. It's inside of you. And, you know, she's obviously a famous jazz musician. She's been doing this for a long time, and she's already overcome that hill of fame. It's clear she's been in this point before where I made it, now what? You know, what's next? And she says, a young fish comes up to an old fish, and the young fish says, "Where's the ocean?" And the old fish says, "You're in the ocean." And the young fish says, "No, this is the water. I want to get to the ocean." And it's that exact idea.
Yeah.
It hit me really hard in that she's like, I've been here. You were already here. And there's nothing different now that you're on the other side of this hill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all going to be the same, and you just have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that hit hard, that idea of we really idolize celebrities, and you can see how money buys happiness. But when you get over these hills, you still have to be a person who's capable of being happy.
Yeah.
You can't just take everything for granted until you don't have anything else to take.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just end up in a rut.
Real quick before we finish this conversation, in defense of jazz, I think if you are a pop star and you have to sing your top 10 best pop songs for the rest of your career, I'm sure that's terrible. But for jazz musicians, you never play the same solo twice. So him being in that zone, they talk about being in the zone, like, especially in jazz, you have that opportunity to get into the zone in different ways and play a different tune every night and play different solo every night, I should say. So, because, I mean, in my jazz band, we play one weekend, we play 4 gigs on a weekend. So 2 gigs one night, 2 gigs the next night. And I can tell you all 4 of those gigs are fun as shit because I get to play a different solo each night and try and do something and try and best myself and try and do something wackier than I did the night before. So that's my real quick.
And I do think, you know, you're happier when you get to be part of the jazz quartet. It's still just that you have to appreciate your life as a whole is the message. I do remember there was a time in high school, where I went to the same high school as Sean in Nevada, right outside Area 51.
You did? I never saw you.
Cool, friend. So there was like a band competition. You know, it was a football game, but our football team sucked, and we were like, whatever. So we were at the band competition.
Yeah, the drum
after
battle.
The football competition. And Sean was like hoisted upside down while playing the drums. And it was like, you could just see that joy in your face. You were having a blast. That was like creative, musical fun, you know? It was like, this is wacky and awesome.
And it got the crowd very hyped.
It was a cool move.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely sort of, you know, in that zone in a sense. It's probably not the intense, like, musically constructed zone, but it's the, like, I'm out here having a blast doing this. And I could see that. But I want to do the song of the week is going to be Winter Wind by Frederick Chopin. Maybe Chopin. I'm not
Chopin.
Chopin. I don't know.
Yeah.
Chopin.
Famous piano player.
Yeah, I call him Chopin, but I know that's not his name.
That
but
dude be
it
shopping.
looks like Chopin, like Frederick Chopin, yo. And it's a classical piano piece that blows my mind. It gets my brain like excited. It really lights up just how insane and how hard it must be to play and know all of those keys. So yeah, I think since we talked about, you know, music and all, I think it's a good piece, and we're gonna do something Sean likes. You know, anything prepared?
Yeah. Well, so on this kind of note about soul and appreciating life and becoming famous, Bo Burnham's "Are You Happy?" I think it's a piano tune as well. It's not comedic in any sense of the word. It's actually a very heavy song. It's hard hitting, and I think it's very good.
And we both really recommend Soul. Great
Yes,
movie.
excellent movie.
So I hope you guys have fun. Remember that challenge if you're still hanging around. We want you to post on your story or your Instagram or whatever with tag us so we can see it, and follow Paranormal Snail Entertainment to get entered for 2 free boxes of Girl Scout cookies. Yum-a-dum-dum.
Let's end on that.